We're back with the Managing Director, the Acting Managing Director for NCPB, Albin Sang. Good morning and karibu sana to Citizen TV.
Good morning, good morning.
How's the year so far?
Not bad at all. Yeah, we are okay.
Yeah, you're back at work?
Yeah, we are back at work.
All right. And the focus today, we want to look at this discussion about maize. You recall that a few weeks ago, President Kenyatta gave a directive that NCPB was going to buy maize at a price of 2,500 per bag, and they will procure 2 million bags of maize. That should total to about 5 billion shillings. And of course, he gave directives that this has to be done at buying centers that will be determined by NCPB to receive that maize. Also talking about the country had a harvest of 46 million bags of maize. So, first of all, why haven't you started buying maize from farmers?
I want to say that the various stakeholders who are in preparation for the purchase of maize have been working almost day and night to make sure that we start receiving the maize, and we have for a while been preparing, looking for resources so that we can be able to start as quickly as possible. You know, we have to work with the various agencies, the ministry, the Strategic Food Reserve Fund Board, which had to meet and also approve the purchase of the maize. They also had to look for resources so that, particularly the funds, and of course they have to link up with Treasury. The ministry and the county governments are also supposed to identify real farmers. At the moment, of course, we are in a process of course, the ministry and the county governments are actually starting to identify the actual real farmers. We don't want to do the same story, the same thing we did last year.
Okay.
So this is what we are now trying to do. Identify the real farmers first, get the necessary documentation of those real farmers. That is what we have been working on. So we are actually thinking as a board, as NCPB, we are actually ready. The only thing we require is a list of farmers from the ministry and the county government. We also need to come with modalities. We were looking at the possibility of having the necessary capacity to test for moisture content, to test for the toxins that could possibly be available or be in the maize. And there are good reasons as to why we require to actually.
Just before we get to that, the practicalities of executing this, one might wonder when they're sitting at home, they harvested this maize as early as September, October last year. It's now almost 3 months plus. And they are wondering, the president has spoken. He has given the directive, go ahead and purchase this maize. So they're wondering, what is this approval that you need from the Strategic Food Reserve? What is this bureaucracy between Strategic Food Reserve and the Treasury, yet the president has spoken and the farmer has harvested and they have their maize?
I can't speak for the other agencies. I can only speak for NCPB. For us in NCPB, I can say we are ready. We only need the necessary resources to work. We need to have, you know, they need also to approve the purchase of the gunny bags or jute bags for packing the maize. So we cannot...
So far you don't have that approval?
We have now gotten the approval when the SFR has actually been assured of the funding. So now that they have given approval, and the process of procuring the same takes a little bit of time. But as NCPB, we are saying we are at the depot where we have silos. We can receive maize. We can receive maize in those silos. We may not receive maize without the bags in other areas. So we are still in the process. But even then, we will still need to have confirmed farmers, the actual farmers.
Okay.
Because we know some of the farmers are also traders. Yeah.
So when you look at this, yes, you don't have the approval from Strategic Food Reserve to procure bags. You're saying it will take a bit of time. How long exactly?
There are various types of bags. Those which are available locally, we can achieve it quickly, as long as funding is made available.
So you have approval. Do you have the funding?
We don't have the funding yet, but we are being assured.
Okay.
We have been assured, so we can start already the process.
Okay.
We can start. There is a good discussion between the SFR and the Treasury to make sure that those funds are made available. We have been assured. We got a letter last week that we can now purchase the maize. So we are presumably, I think we shall have it in the papers tomorrow, putting the conditions that are necessary for every farmer who wants to supply maize. So I'm expecting conditions to be put in papers tomorrow by SFR. SFR promised me last week that tomorrow they will have those conditions in the papers, so that the farmers exactly know how much maize they are expected to deliver per farmer. Because this is only 2 million bags.
Yes.
And we cannot just open. We need to have allocation per county, and each county will actually apportion some of those to small-scale farmers, most of the small-scale farmers. There will be also big farmers who would not like, the small-scale farmers would not like to actually be taken by only big farmers. So I think the county, we shall work together.
So when you talk about counties, which counties will you be procuring maize from out of these 2 million bags?
We have 12 counties. But those who are also demanding, if they demand, we shall try to see whether we can reduce some of the allocation of some of the counties. But for now, we are the main surplus producing counties actually Uasin Gishu, West Pokot, Narok, Trans Nzoia, Kakamega, specifically Lugari sub-county, Nakuru, Nandi, and mainly Nandi North. We have Bungoma, we have Kericho, we have Elgeyo Marakwet, we have Migori, and we have Laikipia, particularly Ngarwa and Kinamba.
So when you talk about this, then it means that you can only receive maize from those counties as it is now?
Yes, these are the counties we have confirmed. You know, there are other counties who could be having maize. But when we, as NCPB, normally we test the qualities of maize in those various areas, especially the counties without the aflatoxin. Okay.
Right, and you know I'm asking that because last year, or was it the year before, starting 2017 into 2018, the reports from the Ministry of Agriculture indicated that there are certain farmers that supplied maize in the counties of, for instance, Kisumu, of people who delivered maize at a depot in Eldoret or Uasin Gishu, then went ahead to deliver another portion in Kisumu. So I'm just wondering, Kisumu is not part of the areas that will be collecting maize. How do we avoid a situation where we have maize delivered in Kisumu yet you don't have farmers that you're targeting?
I want to say that I think last year the farmers who delivered maize in Kisumu were actually referred farmers from Uasin Gishu and Trans Nzoia because of the availability of space in Kisumu. We don't rule out that this time. But as for now, the government has really made sure that we have 2 million bag capacity in North Rift. And we have those other places which are in the South Rift, which we also have capacities to store there.
Okay.
So at the moment, we may not so much refer to Kisumu, but if need be, of course, if the government decides to add the amount of maize, we may have to refer some of them to Kisumu. But those are the farmers from only the 12 counties. We may have some few farmers in Samburu, which they are very few. I think last year there were only about 5 farmers.
Okay. So let's talk about this directive by the president that the Minister of Agriculture was required to ensure that this maize is bought from buying centers. That is, instead of farmers coming to deliver at your depot, that are the major depots in the different towns, you have to go to them. How technical is that, and how prepared are you to ensure that succeeds?
At the moment, the government has set, actually the president himself has come up with a task force to look at the possibility of implementing those. The task force is still in the process, and they have discussed with farmers, they have discussed with various stakeholders in various places. Last week they were in those counties which are producing maize. They are looking at the possibility of implementing all the buying centers, which is true. But we strongly feel those buying centers will not be buying centers for NCPB, really. It will be aggregation centers, where the farmers, small farmers, can aggregate their produce and be able to sell and negotiate for prices and sell to various, not only NCPB, but also millers. So we strongly believe those aggregation centers can be done. The only challenges for now is availability of equipment to test.
Right.
But we are preparing. You know, some of the things can be done in short term. Some of the things can be done quickly. Some of the things can be done in the long term. So we believe strongly that in the long term, those aggregation centers should be able to work.
The last time I visited your facilities, I saw one national, what was the name? National Analytical Laboratory that had deficiency in terms of the staffing. I believe there was only one lady by the name Agnes who was working at that facility. She was testing for aflatoxin. You're now saying that you need to go to buying centers or aggregation centers and you need to test for these toxins and even test for moisture. How capacitated are you to execute that at those buying centers? And even how many are there? How many would they be?
I want to say that we are not working alone. We have had a lot of discussion with the Ministry of Health. They have also the ability to test for these toxins because that goes into food safety. We believe working as a team, we can be able to actually implement some of those, at least assist the NCPB in testing for areas of food safety. We can be able also to work with other agencies like CALRO, with any other organization that can be able to work with us.
So is it a possibility that, yes, I know you're working together, how many buying centers are you targeting, or aggregation centers?
Okay, for now, each county is coming up with a set of aggregation centers.
Okay.
Some of them, they are very ambitious, and it may not be achieved as quickly as possible. Some of them can be able to achieve in the short run. What we are proposing is that each of these aggregation centers could be run by farmers, producers, the cooperative societies. And if the counties will strengthen the cooperative societies in those areas, they can be able to run the aggregation centers on their own.
But I believe that's in the long term.
That is
in the short term, because you have to buy 2 million bags from these farmers, how will you do that?
At the moment, what is possible. Okay. Once the farmers have come up together and actually develop an aggregation center, we can be able to go and test for the quality of maize in that aggregation center. It is not very difficult to test for various qualities. And then after testing, we can recommend them to deliver in our depot. Okay. Because we cannot own a product that is outside our depot. We can own it once it is in our depot. But we can test for many other things within the depot. I mean, within the aggregation center. Okay. Yeah. So essentially, to procure 2 million bags, you will need equipment to test for aflatoxin, you'll need equipment to test for moisture, you also need equipment to weigh. What happens is that aflatoxin is not very easy to test as quickly as the farmers deliver. Yes. But what we have done as NCPB, we have tested maize when the farmers are still having their produce. That is why we don't recommend any maize from other areas.
Okay.
That is why we simply say the farmer should only deliver what he has produced in his farm, not what he has brought from elsewhere. And that is why we want to work with all the other agencies to make sure that the maize that we are going to receive actually are produced in that particular locality.
All right. And of course, you can join the conversation by texting us on 22422. I'll be reading some of your feedback. You can also tweet us at Citizen TV Kenya, and Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is Daybreak. Someone is saying here, Obadiah Kisang says that farmers were vetted several times last year. Please use those records and new farmers to apply to be vetted. So that brings me to the question. You're saying that you're still waiting for a list from the Ministry of Agriculture and the county governments. When I spoke to you sometimes last year, I believe it was in November, you told me that NCPB had learned the lessons, had learned the missing links that were experienced in the previous season, in a sense that now you are cleaning up your register of farmers. What has happened to that record now that we have to wait for the Ministry of Agriculture and the counties at a time we should be procuring this maize?
We have not thrown away the list of farmers who are vetted. They are still part of that team. They are still part of the list. But remember, these farmers keep on changing in terms of acreage. So to be able to deliver, some of them they have hired. They have hired or leased out some of their land. So to be able to ascertain that that amount of maize that they are delivering at this time is not imported maize. We have to go back again and we'll use the same list to confirm from the agricultural officer in that particular ward to make sure that the maize they have in their stores is not part of the imported maize. We know a lot of farmers are importing maize. We were in Trans Nzoia last week, and we are told many of the people are importing maize from Uganda. We don't want to receive that kind of maize because we have not tested for any other thing.
So how do you tell that a particular grain is from Uganda, it's from outside the country?
We don't want to test that. We want to confirm this is the maize, and the agricultural officer will have to sign that document to say this farmer has actually produced this amount of maize in his own farm or in the farm he has leased from the neighbor, neighbor X. So that is why we are not going to, the maize is looking the same. You find some of the seeds might have gone across the border. So what we don't want to receive is the maize we have, we have tested for aflatoxin in those particular areas where we are receiving maize. Right. We have not tested Uganda. So when we are going to receive the maize, we want to make sure that we are receiving the maize from the farms that we have tested for toxin, absence of toxin. Okay. So once we get those farms and we get the amount of maize, they will be allocated a certain amount of maize to deliver. 2 million is a small one, small bit in terms of total production in the country of 46 million. So we have requested SFR to allocate those shares to various counties. And they are now coming up with modalities on how they can meet their share. And they cannot open to everybody. Okay, so you don't have a formula yet, or have you suggested a formula that can be followed based on the productivity of these counties and say that if Uasin Gishu produces an X amount of bags, then you can proportionately allocate them that percentage? No, there is a formula. They have already done it. Okay. I think it will be there tomorrow in the papers, if possible. They will communicate to the counties. I think they should have communicated by now, so that at least each county, they have also looked at the various deliveries for the past so many years to NCPB. Okay. And then looking at the total production per county, and then the deliveries that they have given. And then using those formula, now they have come up with various amount for each county. And now beyond that, you'll have to go a step lower, because if a farmer produces 10,000 bags and there's another one who produces 1,000 bags, obviously it has to be proportionate. Exactly. So the county will now decide how many of their big farms, because if you have so many big farmers, you don't just leave them to just provide all the allocated amount to the NCPB. So they will be given. Some of the farmers are producing as 14,000 bags. if they bring 14,000, another one bring 14, and another 14, then they are finishing their allocation. So I'm very sure the counties will actually allocate a certain amount to the big farms, and then a certain amount to middle-level farmers, and then the small-scale farmers.
I'm sure you had Mheshimiwa Gladys Sholei when she was speaking on this show, and she was so frustrated herself coming from Uasin Gishu. She says that whatever maize she grows, she feeds it on her animals or livestock. But when you look at this, it's just a reflection of the frustration that has been with the farmers. So now you're saying that even if you produce 10,000 bags, there will be a proportional allocation for you. So what alternatives exist so that, because 2 million is just so much for NCPB, there's a balance of 44 million bags of maize. Where do farmers take this maize?
That is why the task force was created, to look at that. Because I think the government cannot be a buyer. You know, SFR is only playing, you know, the objective of SFR. I'm not speaking for them, but I know it is for them to balance the deficiencies. You know, it is only for the time when there is excess, then they can mop a little bit. When there is shortage, they can release some bit of it to the market. So that they can stabilize and cushion the consumer. It is not really the role of the government to really purchase. That's why the task force is working. If there are people who still feel strongly that there is something they want to advise the task force, they can just relate to their counties, tell their counties, they can put it in writing. We are still open. I'm a member of the task force, and we are still open. We want to listen. We have been listening. We have gathered a lot of information so that the people can actually come up with a way of actually sorting their problems.
Right, I'll shortly come back to the point of releasing the maize into the market. Let's just look at some of the feedback that you've been sending to 22422 as well as on Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya, if we have that. Right, this is, you don't leave your name, you say on SMS that what happened to Nyahururu Depot? Will it be operationalized again since it serves Laikipia and Nyandarua counties? The go-downs are now supermarkets. We begin with that. What happened to the Nyahururu Depot?
I think what we are going to buy maize from Nyahururu. I've indicated that.
No, it's not in the.
Not in the list. But we have Ngarwa and Kinamba, and most of the areas that are around there, we can have their demands. We have actually requested those who have leased some of our facilities to leave the facilities so that we can be able to use when necessary. I'm very sure the reason why it was leased out may be there was a shortage of maize. Many times, and if you look at the history of NCPB, they have never met the amount, they have never even reached 1 million bags. So it has been a challenge all these many years. So most of the storage facilities were lying idle. And that is why some of them were leased out.
Had been leased out.
Yes.
Let's look at another tweet, or rather piece of feedback on Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya. Kilele Rop says that ask Albin Sang why millers were denied to use the NCPB stores while they buy more than the government. Well, I think you have responded to that, but I don't know if they have anything additional to it.
No.
Okay, all right. So the president on the 10th of January directed that, or rather indicated that the government was going to simultaneously release 1.7 million 90-kilogram bags of maize at 1,600 shillings to the millers, and an additional 300,000 bags of to go to animal feed at a cost of 1,400 shillings per bag. How far are we with this?
I think there is a discussion between the millers and the government. I'm waiting for any instruction that comes after that discussion. I cannot comment on that, particularly as NCPB. It is fully the government, SFR, and the millers. And once I'm given instruction, I'll do the necessary.
Well, you know, someone sitting at home and listening to you would wonder why, because when you look at the situation we had the previous season of some cases that are currently active in court, there are several officials of NCPB that have been taken through, that are being taken through the justice system because they sort of colluded with some of the farmers or some of the traders, and that's why we are where we are. So how much room do you have to operate within NCPB? How much of authority do you have within that facility, that institution?
Okay, we work on instructions. We work on, I think if we follow the actual instruction, the way we need to do, we purchase from the real farmers, That is why we are going in for the actual list of farmers. And then the amount of maize they have produced and the amount of maize they are ready to deliver to NCPB and where they want to deliver, so that they are not just at the mercy of NCPB. No, we want to have this one very clear. And the farmers all over, they are telling us what we need to do. And we have said we want to get rid of corruption. We want to get rid of masses from individuals in NCPB stores. We want to have clear procedure. And we are actually, as we are here now, there is even a board meeting today looking clearly on the procedures, so that the individuals in those stores can only work within the procedures.
Well, that's your response, but when you say that you act on instructions, the leadership that was before you and the things that happened, that they're now being accused and they're still in court, were they acting on instruction based on what you and the documents that you've been able to look at?
I don't know really what happened because I was not there at that time. But I believe there is nothing so difficult really if they were working genuinely. Because I think what was happening is that they just opened the stores and anybody was bringing maize and they were receiving. And at some point you wonder why they received even so much. And sometimes it was even wet. And they had to go through a whole big process of drying. We took a long time, and it is not really very interesting and anyway, I think the problem was also everybody was focusing on NCPB at that particular time, because I think the prices was a bit too high.
Okay, so if I get you correctly, you're waiting for instructions, you're waiting for approval. Okay, the approval has come to go and buy the gunny bags or jute bags. You're waiting now for resources that will finance that process. You're waiting for instructions and how to allocate how much maize from which region, from which farmers. So currently, what are you doing?
Tomorrow we have, now we are coming up with procedures. And we are ready. We are on Wednesday and we have had a discussion. So it is not just instruction, we are also part of the process. Okay. And we have discussed with the SFR, and they have been assured, maybe by the end of today, there should be assurance of the money. And then on Wednesday, we are ready to open, to receive the first vetted farmer, the person with that particular form, signed this Wednesday. If there will be anybody who will have cleared with the chief, who will have cleared with the agricultural officer, can come and deliver. So they can come and deliver at the depot, or at aggregation centers? No, at the depot. Aggregation center is not so much a buying center. It is an aggregation center for anybody who wants to buy. No, I'm asking that because there's a report on the Daily Nation, and I'm sure you have been able to look at it, that they are saying that more than 50 lorries have lined up at the Eldoret NCPB depot ready to deliver maize, but the NCPB management maintains it had not received approval from the government to start buying the crop. So when you have these lorries coming to deliver the maize, and this is something that happened last year, that traders had already taken the center stage, lining up at the depots, and left out genuine farmers who were not as wealthy, did not have as much maize. So how do you control this time? That is why we have come with a procedure. We have come up with anybody who has been approved. You don't need to lie. In fact, what we are in discussion with the counties is that they can even allocate them time to deliver the maize, so that you don't sit down there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks waiting to deliver. After all, this time we are not going to receive so much from each individual. I've been told we should actually not even receive more than 400 bags by a farmer. So 400 bags? Yes, 400 bags. If we receive more than 400 bags, then we shall have others remaining. Okay. So that's why we are saying, let us have 400 bags only by farmer for this time. If there will be any additional, then SFR will be informed to add. Okay. So essentially, what should these lorries and their drivers that are lining up at the Eldoret depot, what should they do? They should have waited. They should leave there? Yeah. In fact, they should leave that place, because most of them, I don't know who they are until we get to know who they are. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm just trying to look at some of the feedback that is coming through. Someone is saying that the maize narrative has been negative for far too long. If indeed we cannot manage maize, then as a country we're in trouble. Farmers should play a role in weeding out corruption. Sometimes these farmers are aware of cartels among them, but conveniently remain silent, only to erupt later when it works against them. This is responsibility. The acting managing director clearly expresses lack of capacity, even as the government talks of purchasing the maize. That's comment from Eldred. Quite a mouthful of what he feels about all this.
No, I think I like that because the farmers know. They actually know who are the cartels. They can tell you this is a farmer, but it's a farmer camp, a trader. And even when they come, we listen to them. But I know these traders have a place. But this time, we are saying as NCPB, we are not going to get it from traders. They have a place to do. They have a place they can buy and sell to others.
In your view, as the leader of NCPB, do you feel confident that all the ills and corruption that was witnessed in the last season has no place this time? And what will you do to ensure that it doesn't happen?
I'm telling those people who are lining up, if they have imported maize from elsewhere, I think they better go home. We are not going to receive any maize that is imported. We have, all the agencies of government are working day and night. They have been assured. They know who they are. I was assured by county commissioners. We are working with them closely. And they know who are in the line.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Albin Sang, the acting managing director of NCPB, thank you so much for making time for us on Daybreak to come and respond to some of the questions that are being raised by the farmers. And we wish you well, even as you carry out this quite a difficult task in ensuring that you bring back the confidence in NCPB if it ever existed.
Sure, it will.
Okay, all right.
Thank you so much.